Building 7 on September 11th, 2001, collapsed into a free fall. Along with the Twin Towers and many other terrorist attacks that happened on that day. Today is September 11th, 2022. And as of today, we still have a multitude of questions that have gone unanswered. Today, it is my privilege to bring on with me Dr. Hulsey, Professor Hulsey from the University of Alaska. He is the gentleman who has had an entire team that has done a forensic analysis on Building 7. This analysis was done for over 4 years. And he has found some very compelling evidence that is all documented and backed up with scientific data. And the information has been put out for other engineers to scrutinize, which many of them have been. There is a video out already that explains all this, that goes over it in detail, the analytics. Today, we are not going to go over that scientific detail. Today, Dr. Hulsey and I are just going to have a friendly conversation about 9/11 and Building 7 and a little bit of background on what has happened. Let me read just a little bit of the background of Dr. Hulsey so you know who this gentleman is. Leroy Hulsey, PhD, is a retired professor, emeritus, University of Alaska Fairbanks, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. He was a professor of structural engineering for 33 years. His education is a PhD in structural engineering from the University of Missouri-Rolla, and also postgraduate and PhD candidate, the University of Illinois. His MS, civil engineering, he received the University of Missouri at Rolla, and his BS civil engineering in Missouri School of Mines and Metallurgy. Forensic engineering and other structures. For his background, Dr. Hulsey has been responsible for failure investigations for structures in the Midwest, East Coast, Alaska. This sometimes means installing instrumentation and testing a structure for a given condition. Dr. Hulsey has extensive instrumentation experience. This experience is often used to explain the behavior of an existing structure. Examples of this includes developing design methods for unusual structures, such as water slides, the response of an automobile during a crash, and developing methods to evaluate the response of buildings to vibrating equipment in manufacturing plants. Dr. Hulsey also has assisted engineers in evaluating the framing systems for assembly areas such as the Dean Dome, and developing unusual structural systems such as a sailboat on top of a proposed shopping mall in Kuwait. Dr. Hulsey has also served as an arbitration board and served as chairman of an arbitration board for a conflict on construction problems related to buildings and structures. Dr. Hulsey has developed leveling systems that enables owners to tune their buildings should they move due to ice thaw, insufficient foundation supports, and possibly potential damage resulting from flooding or seismic event. Okay, there is a incredible laundry list of accomplishments that Dr. Hulsey has done. He's a long list of awards and honors. He's been extensively published. Interestingly enough, he also has a great deal of practical experience, and he began his career by working in the family business as a general contractor who specialized in building customized homes and small commercial buildings. At the age of 17, his father had a heart attack, and this event required Dr. Hulsey to run the business for the next 6 months. After that, over the years, he has remained active in construction. He has served as an arbitrator for the American Arbitration Association in the early 1990s and became active in the field of horizontal construction earthwork. Okay, instead of continuing on this guy's pretty bright. I think we can all agree with that. But if you would like to know more about Dr. Hulsey, on our C-Vine website, c-vine.com, c-vine.com, we will be putting his extensive bio and background. Welcome, Dr. Hulsey, to C-Vine and our discussion on Building 7. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's wonderful.
Well, I also would like everyone to know that Dr. Hulsey and I have spent many, many hours this last week getting to know each other and talking a great deal about so many things. And Dr. Hulsey has agreed to work in tandem with C-Vine and helping to bring out information about 9/11. We're going to be having multiple shows moving forward, just letting you know this isn't going to be it. Multiple shows moving forward and having discussions. Going to be bringing on some firemen that have been around in 9/11. We're going to be having all different types of roundtables and discussions. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'm done babbling. Dr. Hulsey, you were given a grant, is that correct? To be able to do the forensic analysis on Building 7. Now, obviously, you had a great deal of interest in it. What was it that sparked you? What was the initial intrigue that got you started on this path?
Well, let me kind of just back up for a second. I was actually contacted by a gentleman in Anchorage, Alaska, who I found out had a degree in mechanical engineering, but he was also the guy that gave you everything that you needed before you had surgery. So that was what he did for a living. And he contacted me because he had joined AE 9/11 Truth, and he believed that there needed to be some work done. And so he contacted me. At the time, I didn't even know there was a Building 7. So I had to do a little study to find out what was going on, because I'd heard, I think I watched the buildings, World Trade Center 1 and 2 come down on my TV that particular morning, but I didn't hear anything about any of the other buildings. And so anyway, through that process, I turned them down. They then contacted me again, and I turned them down. Then they contacted me again, and I said, you know what? I've lived a long life. It's not so important. If they want to take me out, so be it. I have a wife that has a health problem, and I can stay there and take care of her, and I'll make arrangements if somebody else needs to come in. But I will take this on because I think the American people need to know what happened here. So what I agreed to is I said, I will take this on. We'll have a grant through the university, and I will promise you this. I will find out what didn't happen. I will not promise you I will tell you what happened. That was the grant. That's what I went into. About after the first after the first year, I went back to AE 9/11 Truth, and I said, I need some more money. This is more this has got to be more comprehensive than or it's going to take longer than I expected. And so that's what we did, and they agreed, and we went forth. Keep in mind that I want to make sure that everybody listening, in spite of the fact that you and I are having a conversation, it's really important for the people to know that I set up a program by which I didn't want my students, I didn't want to be reading about what was going on in the world about this stuff. I didn't want to be influenced. I wanted science to control everything. So I absolutely insisted on it. So I had 2 PhD students that we met every morning. I had them do tasks of work, and I would go through the review. So I set up a quality control scientific methodology by which we could be sure every day that the work we were doing is going to lead to the right result, no matter what. So that was the process that I was doing, and I was very proud of them. Somewhere along the way, about 6 months in, we had a project, a project by which we gave the people that were funding us, AE 9/11 Truth, an update and a discussion, so by which they could make, and it was basically overlying, kind of like Zoom, by which we were speaking in the College of Engineering building and making the presentation to them live, and then they could ask questions, and there were loads of engineers there asking questions. It was really quite helpful to everybody, and through that process they began to understand what I was doing. So communication is a really, really important part of life, and I wanted to give them what we were doing and wanted them to be comfortable. That's where we're heading and why we were doing it. So we proceeded to do that from time to time. When on the 15th anniversary, I was a featured speaker in New York. But before that day, this was 2015. I think I started the year before, if I recall correctly, 2014. Okay, first time I opened my mouth, I said, I can tell you this, fire did not bring this building down. It was kind of astonishing that all the people there couldn't believe what I was going to say next, because I told them at this point, there was a huge difference between the behavior of the building and what NIST had came out and said that day, and when they did their work and they had their report out. It was not possible. They didn't understand thermal behavior. Sorry, but that was the truth. So anyway, through that process, I was able to change people's minds about what was going on. Everybody thought that they had the building moved east. It didn't. It actually, through the deformations, the building movement was actually, and I'm not talking about swaying, I'm talking about expanding and getting longer. I mean, getting longer or getting shorter. Just imagine, if you will, for a second, if you had a piece of, well, let's just say a frying pan or whatever, and you were to heat it up. Guess what's going to happen? The handle gets longer, but it doesn't go to the pan. It goes away from the pan. So if you were to take and put that end on a clamp of the handle at the very end of it and heat it up again, guess what? It's not going to go the same direction. It's going to go towards the rest of the pan because you've locked it from moving. This is what that was all about. So the first thing I did is I found the centroid of the building. By the way, the building wasn't symmetrical. It was a trapezoidal system. So if you were to think about this building coming down naturally, it was not going to come down straight down because of the centroid of this building. I then also found what a lot of people don't really, I guess, think about much. I found what I would call the thermal centroid, basically the point of zero movement, where it's that stiffest point I was just describing to you. I hope, Linda, did I make it clear as to how things move if you heat something up? Do you think people would understand what I'm talking about?
You told me, but you haven't mentioned here, and I think you should. Yes, please.
Okay. So basically, just imagine that you take a piece of rod and you take and put it in a heater, and that rod will move with respect to the stiffest point in the rod. When I say stiff, I'm saying a clamp of some kind. Okay. And if I move that clamp around, it changes the direction by which the expansion will occur. Does that make sense?
Kind of like a rebound effect. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Just
Okay.
imagine. Yeah. So what I was looking for is where was the place that's going to hold things together the most, and that's near the elevator shaft. And so you heat the building floor system up, and it's going to move with respect to that point in both directions. If it's in the middle of the building, if it's the outside of the building, and that's the place that's being holding up everything, then it's going to move with respect to that point inward. That's what NIST said. Well, the building walls exterior were not that stiff. They were not stiff at all, matter of fact. It was the least stiff place in the whole building. So guess what? If the floors heat up, it's going to move outward, not inward. That was the difference immediately. It didn't take me very long to figure out that's what was going on. Okay. From there, things, we developed lots of research based upon the behavior of this building. But let's talk about the man and the woman, the family, and what this collapse has done to the people. It breaks my heart. I think I had a student that graduated under me who was a mechanical engineering student, actually from China, that went to Florida, decided he didn't want to be in engineering anymore. He went into finance. I am pretty sure he was in building 1. Never have heard from him again. I've attempted many times. I am sure that happened. I wasn't family, but it broke my heart to know that people like him, we all suffered that day. Can you imagine the firefighters that were out there trying to deal with these issues, and they lost so many friends and so many people that they loved and they worked with? And can you imagine that their families, and you know, the firefighters were a large group of people that worked together to try to save ourselves in times of fires and so forth. The police department, they also had so many problems out there. And then, for God's sake, after all of this happened, you know, and it impacted not only the 3,000 people that got killed or plus, but all of their families and all their friends all over this country. I just can't go forward without thinking about that almost on a daily basis. And here we are 21 years later. And they're still trying to hide this stuff from us. You know, at the end of the day, we can't, as a people, accept that. It's got to be, let's be honest with each other. Let's try to make sure that we all can help each other in times of need. So at the end of this day, I would hope that we can all walk away from here with an understanding that both Linda and I believe strongly that the truth has to come out. And hiding it is not our friend. So I don't know what to say other than say that I'm dedicated to that idea. My life is incidental. I don't care. What I do care about is helping everyone in this country get the right thing done. Return our country back to Christian values. Return our country back to doing the right thing, honoring our flag. Return the flag, our country back to our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and bring education back the way it should be, and not make-believe education. I've been in education all my life, and it's the worst I've ever seen it. And it breaks my heart to see that. In the last 5 years, 10 years actually, as I was teaching at the university, every year I saw the students less prepared as they walked in the door. And I was teaching not just freshmen, but sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So, and there's no excuse for that. I'm sorry. So this is not just about AE 9/11. I mean, the 2001, the collapse of World Trade Center 1 and 2 and Building 7. This is much bigger than that. Anyway, I'm sorry to digress, but I feel like it's absolutely important that we all understand and help each other and move forward with wherever we can help each other. I'm so excited about the opportunity to have a chance to talk to the firefighters. And I'm hoping to fly to New York with another person that's actually a fire protection engineer. And he and I are planning on writing a couple papers about this stuff. We're both very excited about going there and listening the trials and problems they had that day, but also what was going on that day that I can't even address because I wasn't there. But we can enhance everything we've done through their process. I was wondering, because the firefighter that I've talked to some degree already, that doesn't think that demolition was one of the issues, because they were monitoring the behavior of the building from the moment on, and as they were in the building, and somebody was doing the measurements. I don't know who that was. I sure would like to know. It's not a typical thing that goes on in a fire with the firefighters. So what the heck was that all about? Well, you know what? I started reading about thermite last night, and the thermite that's in the dust. And I began to discover that maybe that was going on the whole time, because it's not an explosive. It's a high heat, intense heat, matter of fact. And it was, if that's true, then it was actually modifying the capability of these members to carry load, and they were moving downward to the point of, moment by moment. That might be truly what may have happened. I want to know. We as American citizens need to know. But let me share something with you. Quite frankly, there's as many people in the world, not just the United States, that want to know as well. I'm contacted a lot of times by people from outside this country. There's an Association of Mechanical Engineering in the UK is studying it. There's a report out by the UK firefighters, and there's a movie out by the UK firefighters on this building. You can just imagine the interest. It's just not interest. It's a guarded interest. They're trying to protect themselves as well. This is concerning to me.
Well, you know what happened when you and I first connected, in sending emails back and forth to each other. And it was very surprising how my emails would not make it to your inbox and vice versa. It was a period there in the beginning that text messages wouldn't do, and we're still having issues with that. There, as you know, Professor, the obstruction in getting the information out there, the censoring, you have really been experiencing it. Lord only knows I have. It's, getting things out there. Us coming together like this, including firefighters and all other individual specialties and areas that can bring points of view, is really what's going to have to happen, because it is not happening in the court of law. It's not coming out at all. And we do have enough information joining together to be able to bring all this out. Your work is exemplary. It was methodically done with all the forensic analysis that you had conducted. And we are going to show people that, and you will be able to make your own decision. Now, keep in mind the video that we are going to show you, I don't think we're going to have time to connect it onto this today, but it will be the next day. It's already out there if you want to see it immediately. But the forensic analysis that go on behind it is very, very technical. But I could still pick up bits and pieces of it. But any engineers out there, they need to listen to this. Listen to what Dr. Hulsey has done.
You know, it would be to me, I want people, whether they're engineers, whether they're working in the construction trade, whether they're truck drivers, whether they're taxi cab drivers, I don't care. I would love for everybody, if I can somehow convey what I know about this building, that they are comfortable asking the questions, they are comfortable getting, that I can help them understand what may have happened there, I'm willing to do that. I want the people to not feel threatened by what I may have done. I want them to feel comfortable with the idea that I'm here to help them understand what may have happened to their families and why. I am so irritated by the fact that here I am, a forensic engineer, and the first thing that happened after the buildings came down is they trucked that stuff, all the things that I would need to put this thing together to understand it, they trucked them away so that we didn't have access to the rubble. That was not an accident. That was trying to avoid, I'm sure, trying to keep us from being able to evaluate what was there. And then, you know, here's that thermite issue in the dust. They took that into a laboratory and exploded it. They discovered, oh my goodness, why was that even there? So many questions. And they were damaging our families, destroying who we are. Now, the other thing is that I wanted at the very beginning to talk to the design engineer of this building. I wanted to talk to the architect. I wanted to talk to the contractors and the subcontractors and the material suppliers. No, I'm sorry. They were all locked up in the files by the court. Couldn't get access to any of it.
I would like to interject here that
yes,
in GTMO, during the KSM et al. Retrials, I happened to come across a document in where they keep all of the rulings and transcripts and etc. that was not classified. That was a response to a response from the government to the defense team. The defense team had requested materials from the rubble of 9/11, specifically Building 7, which I found was interesting. Reason we know they had requested that is because methodically the government responded to every single point, exactly what was requested. The bottom line was, you have received all of the review, the research, the forensics for everything that you need to know in the documentation that we gave you. They wanted just a little bit of rubble to be able to analyze. And the government basically said, paraphrasing here, you can't even have one crumb of any of this. You have everything you need. So they had wanted to analyze it themselves. And this was, when I found this in March of 2020, that I happened to find this, was responded. It was actually put out about 2 weeks beforehand. This is just before the pandemic hit and before GTMO shut down to the bare essential minimum, which has been an ongoing saga ever since then. Remember briefly, It was in January of 2020 that the team of Cheryl Borman, the defense team, laid out an entire laundry list of unsolvable problems of why KSM et al., the 9/11 trials, could never go to tribunal. Laid it all out. Shenanigans from the CIA, FBI, an entire laundry list. This is in transcript. And it was after that that judge who said he was going to be throwing everything out of court if he continued to find out that these things were in fact true. It was 2 weeks after his statement that is in the transcript that he quit or he retired, voicing concerns for his family's welfare. It was 2 weeks after that in March where I found that document because I was looking for the transcripts for January 2020 when I happened to come across this. It was like a diamond laying on a huge mountain of material that I was fully expecting when I clicked on it to be able to come up saying that it was classified, because that's usually what happens, but it wasn't. It was public access and I got it. So that, just so you are aware, the defense team has been trying to get some of that rubble to be able to have it analyzed, and it's been refused, just so you're aware. As they stand right now, I'm going to briefly mention that they are in plea deals to be able to throw the entire 9/11 case out of court, or they come to a plea deal where the 5 terrorists plead guilty. They take the death penalty off the table since it's a capital case, and they give them life in prison, and they will repatriate them back to their respective countries. When that happens, it's case closed. And all of these things that have been going on in closed proceedings, which obviously they have been because I found that one document that was a response, is never going to come out. It's never going to be investigated. It's, in my opinion, one of the most ingenious plans that has been going on from day one of the slow walking, the crawling, the drips of crumbs and sending everyone off in every single direction without getting to the core situation. If Building 7 or any of the buildings were in fact demolition projects, the absolute repercussions of that, the domino effect, how everything is going to start laying wide open, is very close. So why would they want to go ahead and shut down Guantanamo Bay, which Obama's been trying to do, which Biden's been trying to do, why they've been slow walking everything, and now why they're doing this plea deal that'll be case closed? I think we all can join. We're not stupid. We have all the diversions going on constantly. We know what they're doing, and we're sick of it. So here, we're going to start bringing people like you, Professor Hulsey, Dr. Hulsey, and all these other individuals, and we're going to start just making the public aware. Okay, this is what's going on. This is what certain factions are trying to get away with. Are we going to let it happen? Just shut up. You think this is the end of it? Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Very good. Well, the one thing I would like the people to understand is that we all have a right living in this country to know what happened. And we're being denied that right every which way we turn. The first thing that should have happened is for us to be able to get in through the rubbish and find out exactly what went on. I can tell you this, there was no, when concrete and steel are in a failure, the concrete breaks off and the steel has buckling and bending and all kinds of things. And if it was in a fire, then it would also show indications of getting too hot and actually moving in ways you wouldn't expect it to move. In this case, what little about the rubble that I was able to discern from, the concrete wasn't in blocks, it was a dust. So can you imagine how it would have gotten that way? Because that was very, very different. It didn't just break off. It was broken into tiny little pieces. That is an explosive kind of thing that happens to create that shape, that situation. I would have liked to have gotten with a microscope and looked at the little pieces to evaluate what went on there. We were denied that because they hauled everything away. Same with the steel. We could have evaluated the temperature that actually was going on with respect to that, in spite of the fact that the fire studies that I did were conservative based upon the fires that were going on. But what I'm saying, it was bigger than just fires. It was several things going on. That's probably the most likely reason why the fire marshal asked the firefighters to leave the building and go to a little restaurant and wait for the building to collapse. I'd like to know who told the fire chief to say that. But he was worried about his people, and rightfully so, because it did come down that afternoon, 5:20. There's a lot of things I don't know. I would love, now it doesn't affect my solutions. It doesn't affect that, but it affects the details. It affects the aspect of what got it there. Where did it all come from? Who was involved? I would like, once again, to ask the question, and if the people will help, I would love to see the opportunity to talk to the structural engineer that designed the building. There was controversy about, well, it wasn't done well. It wasn't safe. That's not true. I might not agree with how it was designed, but I'd like to know that what he was thinking about when he was, and what his client asked him to do to put together this building, 47-story building, not a small building. I would like to talk to the architect and his interaction with the owner. I would like to talk to the people that were helping build it. I would like to know what materials they used in that building. All of those things give me information that enhances what I've already done, but would give us some understanding of where these people were at when they were putting this thing together. Keep in mind, it didn't fail under normal use. It's the only building ever, steel building, that has collapsed due to fire, according to NIST, due to fire. I'm saying it didn't happen because of fire.
Well, everyone, we did not mention this before because we're assuming people knew, but Building 7 was not a building that was hit by any aircraft.
That is true. That is true. And that in itself opened up a whole raft of things. Okay, so what brought it down? If it didn't get hit by a plane, what caused this problem? So that's where the controversy started, right there, with that issue.
Well, you had mentioned that with what you have been able to do by looking at the structure, you've been able to say what did not happen. Okay, so that's a lot. That's huge. That makes a very strong statement. Professor Hulsey, do you have any closing remarks that you would like to make? Because we are going to be having you back many times in the future, but for this particular video.
Well, I will say this, that last night I learned some things because of a conversation that I had with the firefighter that I didn't know before. And through that process, I'm now wondering the interaction of what was really going on that day in terms of creating the failure. Now, a lot of people have said it was a demolition. I have said from the beginning, I'm not going to say that. I laid out all the things for people to come to their own conclusion based upon what I did. Today, I'm even a little more reluctant. And the reason is because I discovered that if there was thermite there all the time, then the process was going on from the beginning. So that's not just a collapse. That was an activated system. And so that might have been part of it. I would like to get that clarified through the conversation with the firefighters, because that'll begin to tell me who was measuring it, what measurements did they see, over what period of time from the beginning on when the first two buildings came down and when this building came down. If they were measuring until they all got kicked out of the building. And by the way, firefighters don't go out there and measure. Somebody was measuring, and why were they? I'd like to know a lot of things about this. So anyway, in today's world, all of a sudden I'm learning more things. And as we begin to get more information from people, I'm not going to change the argument that it wasn't a fire. That is a given. What I do not know yet is the interaction of what actually created the thing to come down as free fall. Now, the firefighter that I talked to, who was in the building, by the way, he said it wasn't that. It wasn't a free fall. Well, he and I are going to have a conversation about that, because he was saying it was moving constantly because they were measuring it. If that's true, there was going to be a point where it's free fall. And so therein lies the dilemma that's going on that I discovered yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So I want to lay it out that it's more complicated than even I thought it was at this point, because I didn't have that picture of the fact that the firefighters were in there measuring how much the building was moving moment by moment.
Well, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of additional things coming out. And for those of you that are watching this, if you have any information, there's a contact us section on CVine, that's c-vine.com, c-vine.com. In fact, become a member of that website. And I am going to be in close contact with Dr. Hulsey. And if there are things coming out, or you have something you would like to tell me, go to the contact us section on the c-vine.com website, send me an email. And let's talk about this and bring more things in as we all come together. Thank you, Professor Hulsey, for joining us today. You have a long, distinguished career that isn't even close to being over yet, whether you're in a temporary retired situation. You're not really retired. Let's be real. So thank you for joining us today. And for those of you that are with us, stay tuned. We are going to be playing a video that was created for 9/11, just a little short clip that is a tribute to the victims and family members, and a memorial to that fateful day. Stay tuned as it plays.
Thanks for asking me to come today.
Have a good day, everybody.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's stripes and